Hi guys, I don't draw my eyebrows on for just anybody, so I hope you enjoyed this segment from a huge compilation I'm creating. It's from the Green chapter, and you'll find out why. Hope you enjoy it. Breathe by Trecinda Wilder. Ready for the world in her aquamarine Bigfoot hoodie, Trecinda gripped the open door, embraced the chill, and watched a Payne's gray mist waft across the driveway to the beats of the Pacific Ocean pounding the sands of Westport Beach just a block away. She pulled on the backstraps of her favorite Keens and waited for Paul. When he came to the porch, he locked the door behind them, and yes, she had her key too, in case she had to come back early. The ravens had been up for 3 hours already, and Trecinda had too. After Paul's deep snores interrupted her colorful dreams, she got up and discovered that a black bear had ravaged the garbage cans during the wee hours, but hadn't made it to the seedy suet block that hung above their rear lawn. She hated, loathed, despised, and abhorred that earth-seen monster, but there was no way to keep him out of the yard short of putting up a tall, expensive metal fence. At least the marauder was easier to tolerate than the borderline loudmouth maggoty prepper who lived next door. Defined by its inherent lack of social influence and self-government, rurality entitles the malignant. Morning walks had always brought the couple closer. Together for more than 2 decades, they could complete each other's sentences, and they liked what they read in each other's minds. These days, though, Trecinda frequently just walked while Paul narrated, and that was okay. They entered the state park and took the right tine of the fork before them. It dropped down about 6 feet over a distance of 20, and they had to hold on to flanking tree trunks to avoid sliding down the grassy slope. Once at the bottom, the path would offer miles of slight dips and rises and opportunities to do the neighborly thing of shifting trees that had fallen to block the path in the night. It was a labor of love with the opportunity to caress soft emerald boughs in their arms, if only for a moment. Moss came in 100 colors and textures in coastal Washington. It hung down in hairy lime-colored tresses and clung to citron-dusted bark and viridian paddings, carpeted the verdant forest floor, and upholstered fallen logs in little peacock mounds. Atop a boma of fallen trees, mint-colored fondant iced the cracks, while fairy thin fronds of knitted celadons curtained the entrance. A block away, even the abundant 3-inch sand dollars sported caps of olive green sea moss on their backs. Visitors here were nurtured and well watered, especially the fat neon banana slugs that slid and spread their slime along the thick forest floor. After the first mile, Paul reminded her that there were 3 paths that intersected theirs if she decided to go back home before he did. He worried about her. She could have just made a U-turn as well, but Trecinda preferred to continue on without interrupting their hike with her irritating needs or retracing footsteps. So she persevered on behind him, listening to his soliloquies and smiling past all the little faces that she'd installed along the trail by stuffing Old Man's Beard 2 tiny blackberries for eyes and 1 red hollyberry for a nose into the cracks and crevices of occasional scraggly-barked sides of western hemlocks along the way. Miraculously, most of the faces still looked fresh even after 2 years. Paul talked about his dreams that he'd had that night and his plans for refitting their old van in time for her surprise birthday camping trip. Destination unknown, but probably historically thrilling. He was such a great trip planner. I think if I cut the boards about a 1/4 inch shorter, they'll fit into those slots better, and it'll cut down on the squeaking. He was a Tetris master, and Trecinda appreciated his logical mind and big heart. She inhaled the aromatic arboreal resin, and the insides of her nose stung a little as piney freshness tweaked and prodded sluggish olfactory receptors that still had not fully awakened after living on the muggy Gulf and Atlantic coasts most of her life. And she recalled how chemo had once destroyed the protective lining of her nose, and how she had smelled every single offensive thing that lurked within 15 feet of her breastless body. I've had that same pot riveter for 27 years. Trecinda acknowledged his comments with an uplifting, and noticed shades of dying greens in the needles beneath her feet, and she looked at her hands and thought of what it would look like to die in this hungry place. Nature's morning glue inundated and connected everything to the marine environment expressed through her moist Pacific collage, and droplets of upside-down worlds gathered onto the surface of the resistant hoodie and forced themselves into its weave to create deep jade dots at the junctures inside bent elbows. And nature's greenness was enough for Trecinda as its family of silent colors exploded in her head and heart and excommunicated the mundane brown thoughts of dying. Once home, he went to work in the garage, and she went to fold striped silks in an experiment with reflected sunlight upon their incongruously rough but shiny threads. Her phone rang. "Trecinda, I'm so proud of myself. I finally chose a color for my living room." "Well, that's wonderful," Trecinda answered with genuine glee. "Yeah, I reckon that Benjamin Moore guy finally got tired of me, 'cause he gave me evergreen swatch he had and told me to take 'em home and hold 'em up to the walls at different times of day so I could see what they'd all look like. And I was supposed to look at 'em morning, noon, and night, so it was a real labor of love choosing that color, you know. I mean, should I go with the cool tones or do I choose the warmer ones? I learned about that in school and it sure came in handy. Yeah, I just put 'em all on the coffee table and looked at 'em as soon as I got up and when I had my coffee and just before I took the dogs out. And oh my God, Susie Q. You remember Susie Q. She's almost totally blind now. And of course, she bumped into 'em and strode 'em all over the goddamn carpet, and it was forever before I finally got 'em up. And then, don't you know, Pedro got a hold of one and started chewing it, but I got it away from him, thank God. My God, these 5 dogs are going to kill me one day. But you know I'm pretty smart, and I decided to get one of my framed pictures down and put it aside those color swatches to see how it'd look. So I held up one of the big British fox hunt prints I got 4 years ago from Temu. You probably remember those, to see how it'd look next to the different colors. And that's when I knew exactly what color to get. Yeah, I feel pretty good and pretty proud of myself, and it just showed me I have a very good sense of color, come to find out, and very good taste in decorating, because, you know, everything I have mostly comes from the Renovation Hardware catalog, and that place is high class, almost as good as the Horchow collection, but sometimes I just try and get something from Walmart that looks similar to what's in the catalog to save money, because I'm big on saving green. And when I was sitting there looking at those paint swatches, I thought maybe the paler shades would make my hunter green couch stand out a lot better, and then I wouldn't have to recover the furniture, and that would save me a bunch of green, too. So I guess I'll buy a gallon of paint, one wall with that, and see if it looks okay. But oh my God, you know how much a gallon of paint costs these days? And then you have to decide if you want eggshell or flat, and I'm not sure which I'll get, but I might get a gallon of both. And then I can use what I don't use to paint the inside of the closets. But I definitely don't want to get glossy, though, and that's just for the trim. That's what the Benjamin Moore man says anyway, but I might end up getting a darker green in the glossy and then paint the trim with that. Trecinda had zoned out since her second interrupted comment and emerged from a sage doldrum to drift toward the Oregon stacks, where she could drive into the jade shallows, and she thought of the abundant percebes, the prolific gooseneck barnacles that crowned the heads of deep strips of volcanic rocks, and the vibrant algae fringed over the hundreds of violet and orange sea stars, and the turquoise and blue-green sea cucumbers with hot pink polka dots along their spines, and how one time the cold liquid chrysoprase waves had pushed up on her favorite seafoam crocs that she'd placed on the floor of the mermaid cave carved from the Pacific City beach boulders. She had had to be quick to rescue them from Tefiti's eager wet hands, and she smiled at the thought of the island legend of Uku and Lele, and then at the thought of having to leave her Uku all alone, she began weeping, taking care to be silent with all that crashing salt water around and within her. But Carl says he really don't care about the color as long as I'm happy with it. But he's usually such a sad sack, and he works in his foundry so much I hardly ever see him anymore, except when he goes with me to take my new Gladiator to the Jeep meetings every month. Do you know I just bought $200 worth of ducks the other day from Amazon? They should come in just a little bit if the mail's not late. And the Jeep Club's going to die when they see those little dog ducks, pirate ducks, ballerina ducks, chef ducks, little cowboy ducks, baby girl ducks, and baby boy ducks, and oh, those little horse ducks. Having failed at slipping any response into phone conversations with this woman for the last 4 months, Trecinda was never sure when or if the loquacious succubus would even breathe at the end of a sentence or phrase. So she put the phone on speaker and returned to arranging fabric within the spread of a hurried sunbeam, while twangy consonants, lazy lilts, and yin-yanging glissandos of the ditzy southern conversationalists raped the airwaves. Trecinda turned the volume up just a tad and thought of the recirculating breathing techniques used by amazingly talented clarinetists who could sustain notes without interruption for minutes at a time. When she realized that she needed to use the bathroom, Trecinda picked up the phone and focused on the woman's phrase patterns. Like merging onto the 13 jam-packed lanes of I-5 just south of rush hour Seattle, she would have to turn on her signal, focus on an opening, and just effing go for it. So I told her nobody was allowed to drive my Jeep but my own self, so Trecinda loudly cleared her throat, engaging her signal to merge, and then went for it. Oh, I don't blame you, girl, but I've got to go. Oh, well, anything happening with you? Well, we just found out my cancer's come back. Oh, okay, well. The southern friend paused, and then a bell dinged somewhere in the rural Carolinas. Oh, yeah, I just got a notice from Amazon. My package has been delivered. I can't wait to unpack those ducks. And then I got to go to the car wash on 2nd Street and pick up a box of assorted donuts from Bizzle's Bakery in Princeton. You remember them, don't you? Or maybe I need to get 2. Do you? Oh, absolutely. Have fun, girl. See you later. Trecinda hung up the phone without listening to whatever lingering farewell words loomed and went to pee in blissful silence. Then she went to the kitchen to take another one of those new experimental green pills with a second cup of coffee. Thanks for listening.